everyone, and welcome to the Redmen Originals Podcast. I'm Steve Hoare, joined by Chris Page, Chloe Bloxham, and Dan Clubb for this episode that is sponsored by our good friends at HelloFresh, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Get in the boys.
If you're wondering where Paul is, by the way, he is...
In the forest.
I think he's on his way back from Belgium as he speaks. Yeah, we were invited. Thanks to everyone at Uni and Saint Gilloise. I got the name, I think, right there. They invited us down to go to their game yesterday against Club Brugge. So Paul gladly took that opportunity. Spoke to a few people down there. We'll have more content around that already. I think if you go and check out Mace TV, you'll already see some of the stuff he's done there. But so I am gladly filling in. I am the Joe Gomez to the Kostas Tsimikas of the podcast. So we'll see how that one pans out. Didn't work out too well for Liverpool yesterday. But before we get into all that, I did just mention that today's episode of the Redmen Originals Podcast is sponsored by our good friends at HelloFresh. So yeah, check out all of this amazing information and save yourself some boss money on some boss food.
Today we have partnered with the amazing HelloFresh and we've got a superb offer of 60% off your first box and 25% off your next 8 boxes. HelloFresh is the ridiculously easy way to plan and cook meals at home. Simply pick a meal plan that works for you, get your fresh ingredients delivered to your door, and then follow the simple instructions to cook your delicious meal. I've chose the chicken and plum stir fry today, and there are a massive range of recipes to choose from on HelloFresh. You can filter your recipes by mostly meat, veggie, quick to cook, low calorie and more to fit your lifestyle. You can also tailor your meal plans by the number of people you're cooking for and how many recipes you want per week. We all lead busy lives and having to fit in work, family, friends and footy is time consuming. So don't make meal planning add to your list of jobs. HelloFresh makes sure you have everything you need to cook a quick and nutritious meal so you can spend less time prepping your foods and more time doing the things that you love. So make sure you use our link in the description below. Use the code REDMEN6025 at checkout or scan the QR code to my right to get that amazing offer of 60% off your first box and 25% off your next 8 boxes. Now it's time for the taste test. That is so good. Absolutely superb.
Yeah, there you go. Another expert meal from HelloFresh, cooked by Mr. Chris Page. Look like you enjoyed that one.
It was
you
really nice.
That spaghetti there.
Yeah, mate. It was noodles and it was really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? I've started ordering from them. They are really good. I'm really impressed with it.
Have you used our discount code of Redmen6025?
I don't think it was live, but I used that old one.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you want to get yourselves involved, get 60% off your first box from HelloFresh and then 25% off your next 8 boxes. Click the link in the description below if you're watching on YouTube, or indeed if you're listening on your podcast, there's a link in the description too. Use that code REDMEN6025 and yeah, get yourselves involved with our good friends over at HelloFresh. Food is delicious and excellent service and basically, yeah, brilliant, aren't they, Chris? Absolutely fun. As Chris Pajak would say, absolutely superb.
Do I say that a lot?
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Almost as much as Dan says, horses for courses.
Oh my God.
Dan does like a horses for horses. Yeah.
All the time.
Wasn't it something else? Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen,
horses for courses, yes. I agree.
We all have them, but yeah, absolutely. Crack on anyway. Yeah, HelloFresh. Thanks very much. Sponsors, get yourselves involved right then. Try to delay it as much as we can, but we do have to talk about the Reds again. Liverpool won. Luton 1, or rather Luton 1, Liverpool 1. Chloe, I'll come to you first. Don't want to speak too much about the ins and outs of the game itself, because I know most guys here, and girls, yourself included, were on the post-match content yesterday or this morning, but that is now 5 games in a row away from home where Liverpool haven't beaten a newly promoted side. To do 3-3 with Brentford, to do 2-2 with Fulham, got beat by Bournemouth, got beat by Nottingham Forest, and then have just drawn at Luton. Was it more of the same, or was it more of a different kind? Because the stats suggest Liverpool actually could have beaten Luton, the XG and all that. The one common theme I've noticed is that in all those games, even the 3-3, Liverpool missing chances and it comes back to bite you on the backside. Is that a bit of complacency where it's like, oh, well, we'll just score the next one?
Yeah, I thought for some reason maybe the attitude or something would have changed towards these kind of games. It seems like every time we play a newly promoted side, we play down to their level instead of keeping our consistency. And it felt like yesterday Liverpool very much was like, well, we're Liverpool, so we're going to win because we're Liverpool and you're Luton. And throughout the game, even in the first half, I mean, the first 30 minutes was all right. I thought Darwin Núñez, had a couple of shots outside the area. The one that he hits the bar, I think he does brilliantly with, and he just gets a bit unlucky. Diogo Jota had a chance, but aside from that, the movement wasn't there. And we it was always a sense of, oh, but don't worry, because we've got 60 minutes to score, because we've got a second half here to score. But the pressure builds, and when the pressure builds, you feel desperate, and you do things that, you try and rush the play, you do balls into the box, which we were doing countless times, which were just absolutely awful. There was no quality on the pitch in the final third, which was a big, big problem. And when you have the likes of, Salah having an off day, you need someone else, and usually there is someone else, but it was Darwin was having an off day, Salah was having an off day, Diogo Jota was having an off day. The only person who didn't have an off day was very much Harvey Elliott, and then Luis Diaz in an attacking sense who came on. I thought Ryan Gravenberch was decent as well. But yeah, it was same old. It felt very much like last season in these types of games, and it's something Liverpool needs to cut out quickly, because you've just mentioned there, the last 5 against newly promoted sides, it's got to be a mental attitude or something, because on paper, Liverpool are a much better team than Luton. Luton have been battered by everyone near, aside from Everton. And yeah, I came out of that, and if we would have lost 1-0, I couldn't have argued with it either, even with the chances that we had.
I suppose as well, Dan, like, I'm going to speak about team selection in a bit, but in terms of attitude, like, I'll be honest, I felt like the attitude at the start was all right. Yeah. In those other games, I think back to, Liverpool were crap from like pretty much the first kick-off. In all of them, they missed big chances. And obviously, the Bournemouth 1-0, Salah misses the penalty. Forest was the one where Van Dijk misses like 3 himself. You had the Brentford one where, again, Salah and Mane both missed chances. Fulham was the same. Yeah. This one, it was kind of that, but it never. Obviously, Darwin has a couple. Obviously, the miss itself, which we obviously the offside and all that. I never got the sense from the start it was an attitude thing. It was almost like we got dragged into into Luton's game. Like they dragged, like Chloe said, we got dragged into the game they wanted it to be, and the best sides don't allow other teams to do that. You just play your game.
And I think teams of that ilk have done that to us all too often, to be honest with you. Not only newly promoted sides, but sides that play that particular way. They kind of do drag us down to their level, take us into the trenches a little bit with them, and I think that definitely happened yesterday. It's frustrating, really. I'm disappointed from a Liverpool perspective that we allowed that to happen, because I spoke at the match build-up show and I thought this new Liverpool side with the new faces, new leadership group wouldn't allow the same errors to occur that we've seen last season in particular, but it was very reminiscent of those type of performances, especially the Nottingham Forest one. It was like watching that same game over again. Personally, it was really hard, but yeah, I was disappointed with that. I think quality-wise, I think the early signs were good from our perspective, but it never quite happened for us. But as Chloe mentioned, it felt like, even as a fan, but it felt like the team thought, it's okay, we'll get the next one will come along. And the more and more the game goes on like that, Luton start to believe it might be their day as well. But I think the biggest concern for me, really, is the fact that how many teams now will have watched that, and Luton likewise. Rob Edwards spoke before the game, said, oh, we've been working all week on a plan. How many teams will have watched that and previous performances against those type of sides and gone, there's your blueprint, that's what you do. You make it hard, go through the middle, so you push them wide, you make them hit crosses into the box, and then we're massive at the back, so we'll just win all our headers. There's a little bit of that yesterday, and it got more and more, like Chloe says, got more and more desperate as the game went on. And if I'm honest, we never really looked like scoring in a conventional manner. It never looked like we were going to score a sort of an archetypal Liverpool goal after the first half an hour. It felt like we might have needed a penalty, like the handball, something like that, or even that skewed Salah header. We needed something almost to bounce our way, and we were never going to sort of create something out of our own accord.
I suppose, Chris, as well, you could just look at, again, I go back to that's 5 aways against promoted sides Liverpool failed to win, and you could just look at them individually and go, well, that's just coincidence. There's just 5 different games of footy, and it is what it is. Or you could look, I'm guessing you'd want to look for a pattern, because surely it can't be coincidence now. I don't know if it's...
How many of those 5 are this season?
Well, that was the first
first
one.
one.
So it was...
Right, so I think that's the problem with looking back at last season. You're comparing
teams.
one game compared to a different team.
Yeah, I was
and I
wondering,
think that's where I think we've been a little bit too reactionary, to be honest with you. And I was the same last night. Don't get me wrong. I was as fuming as anybody else. But you're emotional after a football match, and especially one where you feel like Liverpool should do much better and they should be beating Luton. I'm not suggesting for a second they shouldn't, but like we're turning on a side that's really ahead of where it probably should be when you consider how bad we were last season and stuff like that. So for me, you're always going to get bumps in the road whenever you're building a side. Every great Liverpool side has had bumps in the road. I think what we've been able to do this season is nothing short of remarkable, to be honest, in turning the midfield, losing your captain, losing most of your leadership group, and still being able to sort of turn it round and get results. So yes, you're right, 5 on the bounce, but when you actually take a step back and consider that's the first one this season and we're a third of the way into the league season, yeah, it's a poor result, but everyone has an off day. They're all human. They didn't mean it. We should have had the game wrapped up in the first 30 minutes. I think we did create enough chances. Luton then gained a little bit of confidence from that, from not being behind, and they've hit us on the break. And that, unfortunately, is, people were saying to me last night, it's not why would the 6 make a difference? The 6 would make a difference because McAllister's spidey sense when it comes to danger isn't there, and Harvey Elliott on the edge of the area should have done better with the challenge. But ultimately, you called it during comms, Chloe. McAllister hasn't seen the danger from Chong. He's ran past him. He started sprinting far too late. Proper DM with proper understanding of what's happening would have I think solved that. And for me, the big problem tactically from yesterday was that the best thing we've done this season is we've intermixed this sort of box midfield with continued support from the wings. So Trent hasn't always gone into the centre. Last night, it very much felt like he's played the entire game in the centre midfield. And when you are asking and getting to that sort of part of the game where you've run out of ideas, and it happens to teams all the time over the course of a season, you run out of ideas, you whip crosses in. Trent's got to be the lad whipping the cross in.
Yeah.
He's the best crosser of the football we've got, and yet he's playing central into the area where Luton are defending really well. So we played into their hands, and unfortunately, I don't think the substitutions worked in the way that Klopp had them planned in his head and stuff like that. But to just throw the baby out with the bathwater, and like how so many people last night were going to me, Nunes out. I'm like, he's been brilliant this season. Like he's been absolutely brilliant. This is the exact time as a Liverpool fan you should be putting your arm around the players. If you're in the ground, you're supporting that side through thick and thin. You should do the same if you're at home.
Yep, and I was about to say, Dan, and this is kind of moving on. I mentioned there before about Bournemouth 0-1, Nottingham Forest 0-1 both last season. Got a comment here from A. Naz, and I was kind of going to bring this up next, but I might as well do it now. It's like, the small bit of respite that we managed to actually pick the edge up enough to find the equaliser last season, we'd have blanked. And this is my point. In those games last season, and so often, and again, I'm comparing apples to oranges, you understand, because we're new players, but we did question the mentality and the desire and the, I don't know, did they give a toss basically? I think that was, you can't argue with Liverpool yesterday. I didn't once sense that. I felt they were getting frustrated at times, but it was never a case of, there was no like going through, there was no going through the motions, and they do get a very good equaliser, and we'll speak about Diaz later, of course. But that is the main difference, I think, especially from those ones last season where it looked hard graft, and they really didn't want to put that hard graft in. Everyone yesterday really did. They might not have all played well, but I don't think you can say anyone walked off there without having put a shift in.
No, and that is the big difference, absolutely. I was at that Bournemouth game there. We didn't put a shift in whatsoever that day. We were miles off it. From 1 to 11, from minute 1 to 90. We'd have been lucky to escape with the point had Salah have scored the penalty, to be honest, because we just didn't look up for the fight by any stretch of imagination. And yesterday, as you mentioned, you've got to give them credit. Even though they were having an off day, it's hard to find positives from a result and indeed a performance like that. But there were one or two, and I think one of them is definitely the fact that they did really stand up to be counted, albeit the quality was lacking and it wasn't quite clicking for anyone that day. But they never went, oh well, this is just not our day, is it? And just shirked it. Well, we'll just get beat, whatever. What will be, will be. And also, Chloe mentioned, I think Gravenberch is really good, and I think that's a positive because Gravenberch has been good for Liverpool since he came in, but generally in good performances. And when Liverpool have played well, he's come on and added a little bit. But yesterday we were crap and he stood out, so I think that's a positive as well. But yeah, I think we all sat here week on, week out last year saying that we just don't fancy it anymore, do we? It's just gone. That bottle, that mentality that made us different from the rest is just completely gone. It's evaporated. That's not the case anymore. So that's a big plus.
I think the other thing with probably this performance and difference, I think the manager's got it wrong, to be honest with you, and I think he's got it wrong with his rotation in midweek.
Yes.
And I think he's got it wrong with his substitutes at the weekend. Now, that can happen, obviously. Whereas last season, I wasn't blaming the manager, I was blaming the players. Yeah. Whereas this time, I am actually looking at it going, why the hell did we start those lads midweek? And then ask them to go again on Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to say, Steve Rada in the chat there, Soboslai looked like he needs the rest. I was going to, I might as well move on to it now. Two guys whose judgment I trust a lot when it comes to footy. First of all, Dan Kennett. He said we really need to think about our Carabao rotation strategy, is what Dan said over on Twitter. And then Matt Ladson, obviously, from This Is Anfield and from 442 as well. He says, I was surprised both Salah and Soboslai started to be Bournemouth, played 90 and 76. No surprise, both were offered against Luton. At some point, you have to decide Cups or League as the focus. And do you think that's a fair criticism, Chris? I mean, you've just mentioned it as, so obviously...
Yeah. Listen, I'll take the two players that Matt mentions there, Soboslai and Salah. I've got a feeling it might be trying to play Salah into form more than anything else, because all right, he's getting his goals and assists and stuff like that, but he's looked crap for a month. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't think there's a fitness issue with Salah, so I think he probably can do it. So I think he's trying to play him into some kind of a form, but with Soboslai, he looks tired. He looks like we've put too much on his plate too early on in his career, and the thing with Soboslai is he looks world class now already, but he's a young player, and young players don't have the consistency at that age. You know, there are the occasional once-in-a-generation players, which I'm sure we're all thinking about right now, who happens to play in a Madrid shirt, who maybe does have that consistency, but generally speaking, for 99% of the players, they don't have that consistency, and so we should expect to see Soboslai have a little dip here and there. He's been our best player this season, bar maybe Alisson, if you want to throw the goalkeeper in again. So cut him some slack type of thing, and I think we all have, haven't we, collectively?
Yeah, and I suppose, Chloe...
And it's also not his fault he was selected midweek.
More that for me.
I was going to say, Chloe, if you don't mind, I'll come to you on it, is that like Wednesday night to Sunday is a big gap. It really is. So I don't think you can say, just because he played against Bournemouth, they'll be knackered for Luton. But maybe the cumulative effect, because Soboslai's played every game pretty much. Even like, you know, he comes on in League Cup games, he's come on in Europe a couple of times. Maybe it was just one game too many in what's been in a new period for me. Did look tired, I think we'd all agree. Maybe Salah, I don't think Salah looked tired. I think he just looked a bit rubbish. He's been rubbish for a few weeks. Like, I thought he was rubbish in the derby. He just happened to score a couple of goals. And you know what I mean? Like, so it's I don't know. I get the points people are making, but also, if it was Champions League, you'd have played Wednesday, Sunday. Like, you know what I mean? I know we had to play away from home in the middle of a gale. And I understand that, you know, a hurricane. But I don't know. For me, it's a bit like, I'm not sure it washes. Maybe it's more of a cumulative thing than just because they all played on Wednesday.
Yeah, I still wouldn't have risked it. I think we were all stunned when we seen Soboslai on the
I think he really wants to win the League Cup, maybe.
Yeah, maybe he does, but ultimately, we've said it time and time again, you're going up against a machine in Manchester City, and they've got the ability of what Liverpool don't. Manchester City were to play Luton yesterday, it'd have been 4-0 by 30 minutes in, and they would have been able to make subs. And their squad depth, you might look at it and think, oh, they're a bit sparsy in there, but they kill games so early that they can make their 5 substitutions so quickly and take off their main players. And that's the problem with what Liverpool do. Liverpool are consistently still in games until the 70th minute most of the time. I mean, look at, you know, Wolves away. We had to make a comeback. We had to do that several times. Lask was another one where we went behind first. Even, I mean, Toulouse, we ended up winning 5-1, but for a period of that, you thought, they're back in the game. And that is the difference between us and Manchester City, and that's maybe why he thinks, okay, well, I need some star quality. I need Soboslai, and he's the one who can go again, because we've all mentioned his relentlessness. But what we don't take into consideration is, like, he's literally Hungary's captain. So not just does he play every game for us, he's guaranteed nailed on to play 90 every single time he goes on a national team. So that is also the problem. There was people in the comments talking about whether the coach home, because they had to take a coach home from Bournemouth, if that could, you know, have affected anything. If people are blaming it on the fact that they had to get a coach back from Bournemouth to Liverpool, I might knock you out, because what the hell is that? But Sobo has played a lot of football, I think we've risked it a little bit.
Every minute in the league. Every single minute in the league. We haven't taken him off once.
From when
I suppose, though, mate. I suppose that he's been good. So it's like, you don't take him off. And it's one of those that it's always the, how do you play it out? Like, we were speaking closer there, you're battling with Man City. Well, Jürgen might not be. We'll speak about that in part 2. Like Jamie Carragher said, Liverpool aren't going to win the league, they're going for top 4. So we'll see how it is. If Jürgen's plan this season is get top 4 and win a few cups, so we don't know what the plan's going to be, so it's worth mentioning. But I think, to be honest, I think a lot of it, and I kind of agree on, definitely Szoboszlai perhaps, but like, it's a little bit excuse making, to be honest with you. Basically, for me, the lads just didn't play well. The manager got his team wrong and the lads didn't play well. And that can happen. And in that situation, the best you can do is not get beat. Hopefully, you try and nick a winner and scramble one out, but at least you don't get beat. It's footy. You can't be perfect all the time.
If you win every game in this sort of, was it a 7-game run?
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. And we all predicted it because of the teams that we were playing. But if you just drop 2 points, it's still a pretty good return on a bulk of games, isn't it?
But the problem is, you look at, and we've already mentioned Man City and their power, and almost how perfect, we know full well firsthand just how perfect you have to be to go cause some distance to Manchester City, so it's really difficult. At the title race point, I get, and I think the sort of priority number 1, bottom line for Liverpool will be top 4, but you're in a title race until you're not. And if you're going to sort of rotate the side accordingly, thinking that you're not really in one, that feels a little bit mad to me, so I'm not so sure. But I get you want to win the cup, but you can. We spoke about possible lineups in midweek against Bournemouth without Szoboszlai involved. You could have avoided that, I would say, massively so. You could have avoided that. So I was shocked, gobsmacked by his inclusion. And then he puts in his worst performance in a Liverpool shirt yesterday, and you kind of have to go, oh, do those two things correlate?
Makes Thursday interesting, doesn't it? We'll see. Because Toulouse on Thursday, Chris, I'll come to you. If Liverpool beat Toulouse, there's a very good chance they've won the group. So not only are they through, which they pretty much are, they win that group. And therefore they don't have that stupid qualifier to play in the next round. And the last 2 games are complete dead rubbers. And he can do whatever he wants against Union and Lask. He can play the reserves. He can do what he wants. A lot of people, and again, I'll go back to Matt, he said, I wouldn't have any of the first team anywhere near that trip to France. It'll be interesting to see what Jürgen thinks, because there's a logic to that of rest them all for Brentford. There's also a logic to win that game and then don't worry about those other 2 games in December. It depends, again, obviously, on how they've all pulled up in the next few days, but the manager has got another decision on Thursday night. Does he go and get this just done and dusted? Toulouse is probably the most difficult game we should play in the group, in theory. They're probably the best of the 3 oppositions. Go and win it, and then you just rest.
Listen, with the squads that you've got and stuff, he ain't going to be taking over a team full of kids on the last 2 games regardless. There's going to be involvement from, I'd guess, 5 first teamers in both of those games, give or take, for the most part, or certainly from your top 14, 15 players. There might be 7 or 8, 9, 10 of them maybe involved in those other games anyway. You've got to, I think at this point, we've seen over the years that Jürgen takes those games seriously. Remember when Jota got injured and everyone lost their minds about it? Everyone lost their minds about it, but Jürgen had obviously got his reasons for it. We've seen him do that before, where he's randomly played Salah in a game and you think, what the hell are you doing, Jürgen? And
he brought Salah on in that dead rubber against Porto. I couldn't believe it.
He's got sort of a track record for doing this, and I think you've got to look at the squad that you've got at the time and base on what's best for today and for this week, and not for 6 weeks' time in December. You could have a mad injury crisis in December and you plan to not play all of these teams, but you sacrificed the game against Toulouse because you thought you were worried about Brentford, and then you might end up having to play all your lads in December anyway, and in must-win games right in the middle of a really tough part of the season. So I think it's easier to sit on a couch and make decisions about it than actually live and breathe it like Jürgen does.
Absolutely. We're going to talk in a minute. I want to end this part 1 on Luis Diaz. Obviously, we'll get to that in a moment. I think it's worth. We have to talk about it, and it's never nice, but we've got a comment here from Lewis saying, the Luton fans singing "Feed the Scousers" while living in one of the most deprived areas in the country was almost laughable. There's also the tragedy chanting. I know Jamie Carragher called that out. Henry Winter, I think, has also called it out this morning. Like, it's grim. It is grim, and no matter what people say about it, either or. And sometimes you get this with teams who come up and like they've heard other teams sing it, so they think it's the done thing and all that. But like, Jamie Carragher put it right. Football fans as a collective need to be better than that. Like, anyone who sings about tragedies or poverty in 2023, it was pretty grim from Luton supporters, to be fair.
Oh yeah, it's abhorrent. It really is. It's horrendous. And I did our Oppo preview actually midweek with a Luton fan, obviously, and he kind of alluded to it. I didn't really pick up on it at the time. He alluded to the fact that he hoped it didn't happen. Basically, was what he said. He said, he obviously was going to the game. He said, I really hope I don't hear any sort of unnecessary chanting. I just kind of went along with the conversation. But now looking back, I go, that's clearly what he's referring to. I don't know whether he had sort of an inclination it might happen, but as you just mentioned, in this day and age, and with what's going on in the world, let alone Luton or Liverpool, what's going on in the world, it's just absolutely disgusting. It's vile, and it's just cheap point scoring from the stands. And I'll never understand it, ever understand it. We see it obviously and hear it every single time anyone comes to Anfield. But I must admit, like you mentioned, sort of coming up there, whether that is a factor, like you say, they have heard it done before, and they think, oh, that seems like fun, let's do that. That felt like, obviously through the TV, that felt like one of the worst I've encountered, because it was one after another, like a real
Eating away is the worst.
Where is?
Eating away. They really mean it.
Really, yeah.
No, it's a joke.
Eating away.
Eating as in
the posh place.
Yeah, the posh place, yeah.
I didn't
what I'd say on that is, maybe you get that, like, with all due respect, and like Luton isn't exactly like thrive all the time.
Yeah, but whatever, no one should do it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. That's my point. It doesn't matter what you think. It's kind of my point is that, because I'll come to you, like the poverty stuff again. They're always the victims. It's abhorrent. It's awful, and it should be banned out. Even the feed the Scousers thing now, it's like the whole country's on its arse a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, poverty's never been higher than it has now for a long time. It is, like Dan said, it's cheap point scoring, but it's also really callous and awful. But like, you could just laugh it off and go, oh, it's just banter, blah blah blah. But also, it's not. You know what I mean? It wasn't great.
Yeah, everyone just needs to do better in that regard, don't they? I mean, you get it up and down the length and breadth of the country, wherever you've gone, however how many away games you've been to, I've always heard it. You know what I mean? You'll have heard it loads over the last couple of years. It happens. People are knobheads. Just it's education that's needed for people to understand that it is everywhere, and it's not cheap point scoring. It is abhorrent, the right word. It's the only word I think that you can use to describe it. It's disgusting. People need to be better.
Yeah, Carragher, fair play to this Carragher and all these media, because so often we've all sat here, club, and gone, why isn't no one talking about this? We can all hear this. You've been in stadiums and heard it as loud as anyone over the last year or so. I thought it was, again, maybe it's Jamie Carragher's a Scouser, and he gets the connection also, but it has been, a few different. I think Miguel Delaney put out as well on The Athletic wrote something this morning. It does feel like there is a bit of momentum towards rightly criticising this, because for a while it has kind of felt like we were the only ones here. It's like, is anyone else listening to this? Because we can hear this. It feels like now there is a shift towards people actually pointing out how wrong it is.
I don't know, it might just be because it's Luton and you're not ruffling as many feathers, because when I was at City it was absolutely awful, and Jamie Carragher was on comms that day and just decided to ignore it that day as well. Nothing was spoke about it. Manchester City put out a statement. Pep Guardiola basically denied that anyone inside that stadium had said it, and it just felt like, well, the best thing to do here is ignore it, because at least there's not going to create a whirlwind, and I'm not at the front of that, because this is Luton, and no, with all due respect, no one gives a damn. If it was Manchester City, they're probably going to win the quad this season. Like, they're going to be on newspapers everywhere. The forefront. They are
Hopefully
literally the best
can't.
Team. Yes, they're the best team in the world. I hope it's not because it was just easy to basically criticise Luton. But yeah, let's keep calling it out. Don't call it out this game and not call it out the next game, because I mean, I hear it near every week. And if I can hear it and you just can all hear it through the TV, it's mad that, commentators only choose when to pick it out. Well done to him for picking it out, and well done to other journalists for jumping on and also, calling it out. But let's do it consistently. Let's make sure it's constantly at the front of the minds of every single person in the sporting world. And let's say something actually happens, repercussions happens to Luton fans, because it wasn't just a group of people singing that, it was a lot of people. It wasn't the individual.
I just never understand, why don't you sing about your own team?
Exactly.
No, exactly.
That's the thing that baffles me.
Yeah. And he should be on a day like that, especially yesterday. Yeah. Holding, beating Liverpool for a period of time. That's the dream come true. They were in the National League 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That is absolutely everything. They should be so proud of what they were doing, but instead they choose that moment to sing about Liverpool and Scousers. It's just laughable.
Wild.
There's more food banks in the UK than there is Mackies, and that is a bit hard to believe.
Let's celebrate the fact.
The fact that we're all celebrating, that's just a bit vile as well. So let's just cut that out.
And especially after, we're not that far removed from Nottingham Forest fans come with a big banner.
We're brilliant.
And tragedy chanting and all that type of stuff. And
they were singing it to us, but that's the difference. That's what happens when people call it out. There's more recognition of it. Last season away at their ground, we were subjected to it, and once again, no one called it out. I think the only person who called it out was the likes of Neil Jones and that, who were inside the stadium and could hear it. And thankfully they've actually made a stance this season at Anfield, which is
You
brilliant.
need to self-police as fans, don't you? And that's
listen,
what it comes down to.
Exactly, Liverpool fans, like, I always get it. I hate talking about it online because it just becomes a tit for tat thing, Chris. But like, you always get, well, you guys have sang about Munich in the past. Like, Liverpool fans have absolutely sang about Munich in the past, but it's been self-policed out now. It just wouldn't happen. If I'm on the cop and I started singing songs about Munich, someone would rightly put me in my place. They kick me out the ground, I get a slap around the head, or someone would tell me to shut the fuck up, basically. It feels like Forest fans have done that and they've kind of self-policed it. Again, hopefully other fans can take note, because especially in the winter, the Feed the Scousers Christmas song comes out and it isn't great. But you're right, I think as much as calling it out good, all that calling out needs to do is make someone think themselves, should I be singing this song? And if everyone thinks that, the answer will then be no, and then no one will sing it. But it feels like we're a long way off, unfortunately, from that.
Yeah, we are. I don't know, man. I've always found it really hard to talk about because I can't put myself in a position where I do that to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't compute with me. It's not something that I've done. You know, I have sung songs about Manchester United when I was a young kid, and I've been told otherwise, and I realised the mistakes that I've made, and, you know, I've never do that again and stuff. And, you know, I've spoken about it 1,000 times on this channel when I've said things that have been that have harmed other people and stuff, and you grow up and you make a mistake. But this stuff is like, it's not just a country-wide thing, it's a worldwide thing at the moment. Like, it's do you think it's actually funny that people can't have enough food?
It's mad.
Do you really? And you think you want a group mentality thing and sing about it? Yeah, lads, we're having a little sing-along. Do you want to come and sing about these people who are dying over in Africa? No, you don't, because it's fucking weird. Why are you doing it in a football stadium?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when people only call it out once, and this was the problem with the likes of City, because City didn't take any... They basically turned around and was like, okay, but it's not us. See you later. Did it really happen? That's what you kind of felt City were doing, especially Pep Guardiola. And once you do that, it then seems, oh my God, it is banter, because no one's took responsibility for this. No one's came out and said, this is really bad, this. And that's what happens when it only gets brought to the mind of someone once, and people see a set of fans singing it. Jamie Carragher coming out and talking about it's really good, but unless anything actually happens, people will just know, hey, it's wound Jamie Carragher up, it's wound their fans up. Yeah. Look at this, let's do it again. Yeah. And that's the problem. Until we actually consistently cut it out and call it out, it'll just be let's all jump on the bandwagon because it's annoyed them, it's pissed them off, it's got them angry, and it's banter. And that is the problem when you choose and pick when to call it out.
Fingers crossed that it stops. So keep calling it out is the best thing. Right then, down from a really horrendous moment there, and what's been a horrendous week. So for Luis Diaz, another truly memorable moment. I remember obviously Alisson's header just that shortly after his father had died, and how emotional that was, obviously for different reasons. Luis Diaz getting on the pitch, scoring an equaliser. We'll find out in May how big a point that was.
Yeah.
If Liverpool wins something by a point, we could all look back on it, but it truly was another memorable moment rather, and like, I can't even imagine what he's gone through and what he is still going through. I think it's fair to say it's not just something that's happened, it's still happening. Yeah. There's been updates today about, they're still not releasing his dad because there's issues about police in the area and stuff. I think James Pearce reported. Mm-hmm. Like, fair enough, like we talked before about the character of a person. That's the first thing, just to be, forget about the goal, just to be available on the pitch and willing to do it just shows, like, a tremendous strength of character from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible courage, incredible bravery, like I say, for him to even be there, let alone come on the pitch and do what he then does. Credit to him for that. Obviously, I know Jurgen Klopp spoke about it. He said earlier on this week, I think it was on the Thursday or the Friday, he said he wanted to get back involved in training, something to take his mind off it, basically, which you can absolutely understand, because he must have had a traumatic, horrendous last few days, to be honest, for everything that's been going on. And I think it was his little girl's birthday as well this week, and obviously the granddad, it's just a terrible situation. But yeah, for him to come on and do that just shows the strength of the man, basically. Like I say, with such courage, such bravery, and it's almost written, wasn't it? You mentioned the Alisson stuff there. It's interesting how they got Alisson to speak after it as well and sort of speak about how much it meant to him. And football has this way about it, doesn't it? Albeit, only a point in the grand scheme of things. And who knows what that might mean in terms of Liverpool's season. But the fact it was Diaz and the fact it's been the week that it's been, and he's made himself available, and then obviously gets to show his message on his shirt and stuff like that. It's a real poignant moment. And it's like, it makes you wonder. Like, I was so fuming with Liverpool yesterday, but then when you sort of take it out of his context, I think, do you know what? It's just footy, but what he's going through means so much more. So it was nice, and it was so special that it could be him, and nobody deserved to have a say on that football match more than Luis Diaz yesterday, just for being there, really, more than anything else.
I've always noticed, Chris, like, something, again, feel free if I'm putting words in your mouth, apologise, but like, we love footy, we love Liverpool, like, it's we've always kind of been like the Carlo Ancelotti of it's the most important of the least important things kind of thing. And I think we've always lived by that. That's why we're not a channel or a group of people who scream and shout down the TV and say mad things just to get people watching and listening to what we say. We've always kind of took it as what it is. And moments like that are kind of, that's A, why it's so special, but B, why we all think of that, because literally it could be worse. You know what I mean? Like, that lad is going through something which I can't even begin to imagine how I would be in the same situation. And it was like the positives of footy in terms of like how magical it can be, but also like a reality check of, this is real life, you know, and this is what this lad's going through. And it kind of reminded to us all, like Dan said, no one's sat there losing their heads because Liverpool, because it was a reminder of like what footy is in the grand scheme of things, really.
Yeah, and it definitely was, wasn't it? I think Andrew Madley probably deserves a little bit of credit here as well, because like, just for not giving him a yellow card. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine the uproar that would have happened if he'd have given him a yellow card, but for him to be able to put that positive message out there, obviously gets the goal, he's able to show that t-shirt, which obviously means a lot. I wonder whether everyone else would have had a t-shirt of some description on, you know,
possibly.
You know, for his father. Obviously, it wouldn't say exactly the same things and stuff, but just showing a little bit of restraint there from Madley and actually not doing something ridiculous, which you kind of expect them to do most of the time.
Yeah, we should mention the FA as well in the same breath. We don't praise them ever on the show for obvious reasons, but they are also not taking action because apparently I didn't know they're not allowed to show messages anymore. I wasn't aware of that, but they could have easily punished him for that. But
it's why they held up the Luis Diaz shirt last time, because it kind of worked their way around.
But they're not going to punish Diaz for doing that, which is absolutely the right decision, by the way.
Yeah, it would have been an absolute shitstorm if they'd have done something like that. But no, I suppose back onto it, like, obviously it is massively important to everybody around the world, and you know, I think it's proven how important it is to Luis Diaz as well. And you get to know a player sort of probably more through when they're going through something. And I think Luis Diaz this week, you know, we obviously all hoping for a speedy resolution to it and stuff, but if there's something else, you know, I love Luis Diaz that little bit more because of what he's been able to do for us.
And I suppose, Chloe, like I say, going back to it, like the damage, the footy has been able to be a bit of a distraction for him, which again, some people would want that, some people wouldn't. He clearly is of the mentality that, yeah, that's what he needs, that's what's best for him. So for him to get that moment is hope, touch wood, when this situation's resolved, he'll be able to look back on that with pride. You know what I mean? Obviously, provided his dad gets back safe and sound and everything's okay, that is a real moment that he can look back on and go, you know, I showed amazing courage and mental strength just to be able to function in life. Because again, I can't imagine I would be like if my dad was kidnapped. I'd be a mess. So you can only fair play to him for that.
Yeah, like Jürgen said, it was his decision whether he wants to be there or not. And the fact that he said, yeah, it gives him some control. He doesn't have control over the situation, what's going on with his dad, but he has control over this football game. And when he came on, you could see it. He was direct. He was the one who wanted to really have a grip on the game. He was trying to take lads on and try and push them back into their box. And it's because he felt like he had an impact. He could do something, and that's a really good distraction for him, because there is nothing he can do on the other situation. It is just an extremely distressing situation, and to have a little bit of a distraction, you know, it might have done him well, and for the moment, hopefully, he can look back on it and think of it fondly when, you know, hopefully his dad gets back safe. But yeah, it was just a desire. As soon as he came on, you saw a lad who, when he came on the pitch, it was like he was doing it for his dad as well, or it was like he'd completely let the rest of the universe go out of his mind, and all he was bothered about was trying to do his best for Liverpool. The run is brilliant. He gets the contact. He doesn't edit it, but it's sound. It loops over the goalkeeper. It's a goal. So yeah, he deserved that moment, and fair play to him, because if he would have missed that game of football, there's not a single person in the world who could turn around and say, why is he not? Like, we would all being like, yeah, fair play. Instead, he comes up, trumps and saves Liverpool from sheer embarrassment. Also has a message that he's able to, you know, send out there to the rest of the world, and hopefully it's a moment that he can save and think
big
of.
Decision, Klopp putting him in.
Yeah.
Big decision, bringing him onto the pitch. I think in the best case scenario, Klopp thinks, I'll keep him on the bench, great, but we don't use him.
Yeah.
But he's had to, and he's rolled the dice, and he's put a lot of trust in Luis Diaz, and clearly it was trust rightly placed.
See,
Absolutely.
I was asking for Luis Diaz instead of Cody Gakpo, and after I saw Cody Gakpo come on, I thought maybe we're trying to keep him out the limelight. Maybe we're gonna, like, if he does come on, if we're still in this kind of situation, I think at the time we were 0-0. Even if we were at that situation with 5 to go, okay, then he comes on because he gets the reception. And fair play to the Luton fans, you actually gave him a good reception. I can, fumed at you for what you did earlier, but I'll praise you for that. He got the reception from the Liverpool fans as well. So I think that was a big moment as well to show him that he wasn't on his own, because he has been isolated from... He's not been isolated from the squad necessarily because they're all still in contact with him, but the wider fan base, he finally got to understand that we're all there with him as well.
Yeah, like I say, I hope we'll find out in due course how big that point is down the line. Before we go to the first break, got a couple of super chats, both from Joseph Clark. First one, 499, says, disappointing results obviously, but perspective needed. We're going to have setbacks this season. It's not going to be plain sailing, and we didn't lose. Nice glass half full there from Joe. And then secondly, I also think Endo should be getting more minutes. For me, he's been better than McAllister in that role. Well, funny you mention that, Joseph, because after the break we will be talking about Alexis McAllister, defensive midfielders, Liverpool's aspirations for the rest of the season, and of course the continued links with Andre as well. So yeah, we'll be back with part 2 after this quick break, where we're going to try and get you to buy some of our jumpers. See you in a second. Some absolutely fine Christmas acting from you two there, guys. Just did a great job with that one.
We've run out of sizes of them now. We've only got 3 sizes left, I believe, so we are starting to run low on them. So if you have been thinking about buying one of those jumpers, you need to move fast. I think the smalls have completely gone. I think the 2XLs, there's only like literally 5 left, a handful left. And we're running out of the mediums and the larges as well. So yeah, you need to get on it quickly because they will run out before you get a chance to buy otherwise.
There you go, get your Redmen Christmas jumpers, redmenmerch.com. Whilst we are in the business of passing on some information, if you've been following us on our social channels there, you will have noticed that we've announced our next 2 live events, and finally we're getting back out of the city, Chris. It's been too long. I love doing the Liverpool live shows, but it's nice to get back on the road, or in this case, boat/plane. We haven't quite decided that we're getting across the Irish Sea. Fingers crossed it's plane. That boat does my head in. But anyway, we're doing live shows in Belfast and in Dublin, Sunday the 24th of March at Limelight in Belfast, and then Monday the 25th of March at the Academy in Dublin. We're doing all the Redmen goodness.
Is that an O2 Academy?
I think it's just called the Academy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's no, I don't think it was. I don't think it is. Anyway, still a great venue, Chris, obviously.
So you've put a lot of research into where we're going.
Okay, well, the answer's no. But I'm trying to not disparage the place. It might be. It's probably better than the O2 Academy.
Well, it is better.
It's better.
Everyone in Dublin's like, wow, the Academy. I'm like, oh yeah, boss. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to get
6
involved,
years since we've been over there.
It's so long, and like I say, more to come. We've got a special musician who's going to be joining us as well to sing some amazing Liverpool songs and that on the night, as well as the usual Redmen. Well, nonsense, really. Yeah, shenanigans is probably the best way of putting it. So yeah, the tickets will be available from Friday at 10 a.m. And we are reliably informed by both venues that they expect them to sell pretty quickly. Numbers are quite limited. So ticketmaster.ie on Friday morning for both venues, Belfast and Dublin. Keep an eye on all our socials and all that as well. All the info will be there. But yeah, if you are in Belfast, if you're in Dublin or any of the surrounding towns and cities, etc., or if you just want to fancy like a little weekend away over the Irish Sea to come and watch us, yeah, fair enough. Get yourselves involved, but yeah, Friday, and do get them quickly. I can't wait. Are you looking forward to it?
I'm really looking forward to it.
It's been so long.
I've not got drunk on stage in Ireland for ages.
How much Guinness are you going to consume?
Normally go for 4 or 5.
That might be too much.
And then during, probably the same.
They're like meals. That's like 10 meals. They are heavy drinks.
If you want to see a drunken Chris Pajak, I mean, you might want to go to the Belfast show because you might not make the double.
Yeah, we'll over Chris Pajak in the double one. Yeah.
Okay, so as well, yeah, Friday, I am absolutely buzzing. It's been so long, I can't wait to get back over there. The last time was an absolute ball, but I'm led to believe I wasn't there, but you said they had a good show.
It was great.
Gonna make it.
What was the song I came out to? I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was Will Smith. What was the one he did in the film, Wild Wild West?
Okay.
Because we had entrance music and stuff, so I came out doing Wild Wild West and stuff like that. Yeah. I've done Taylor Swift, Shake It Off, Dancing Down Tables.
You did Barbie Girl, the last one.
Barbie Girl was one of the ones that I've come out to. Yeah, like it. Can't wait. I'll be learning a dance routine from now, so that it's completely ruined by the 5 pints of Guinness come March.
I'm led to believe as well that obviously with these venues, probably the production level might be up. So maybe you'll get like more jazzy entrances as well, Chris. So I'm looking forward to that.
Really?
Yeah, you might be able to go to the next level.
Okay.
Absolutely. Can I tell you a quick story while we're on this, by the way, because I want to do it anyway. I told you guys off here, but I thought it was really funny that I said I've been the one who's been back and forth with the people organising this, and they asked us to send some pictures over. Aaron, can you bring this picture up for those who are watching? I'll describe it for the listeners. It's obviously Paul in the middle with me and Chris flanking him either side is the promo picture. I sent the picture over originally to the promoter, and he put me front and centre, absolutely massive, with you and Paul either side of me.
You should have done it.
I was so tempted to leave it. I think you'd have been fine with it. Paul would have been livid. Absolutely. Which is why I probably should have left it. But also thought we might be more likely to sell tickets with Paul's face in the middle, was my thinking. He's slightly
should have sent it to Paul, though.
I was tempted. I
Just
should have
just done it. Should have just done it.
I know. Maybe, but obviously the promoter...
I would have loved the WhatsApp from him to say,
on the
get you off
well, it's
the
on a billboard somewhere.
Do you think he'd have done it directly to me, or do you think he'd have told you to go like, what's this? I think he'd have told me, he'd messaged me and said, change that now.
Yeah, I think he would have.
Rightly so as well. But yeah, that was anyway, I thought that was an amusing story. Hopefully you guys did too. After what was a very heavy, as Chris Pajak put it in the break, part 1 of the podcast, I thought I'm trying to lighten the mood up a little bit. In part 2 then, Chloe, I'm going to come to you first. That was interesting because obviously it's been a very Jamie Carragher heavy show this, but there was a couple more things that he said post-game that really caught my attention. The first one from Jamie Carragher was that he says Liverpool can't win the league, Liverpool aren't trying to win the league, they're trying to get in the top 4. And I'll be honest, I respect a lot of what Jamie Carragher says, but that was complete news to me, because I am totally invested in a title race until we're not in one. I've never once thought this season about getting back in the top 4. I've just thought it was time to win the league, and if you come top 4, so be it. But I was surprised. I've not had that sense of many Liverpool fans that the aim was top 4. I don't know what you have, I don't know.
I think we all hoped that we could maybe, make a resurgence, because there was that season in where we were absolutely crap, and then the next season we were on for the quads up until the very last day. I think we all had that hope. There is still, the same mentality there. You've got better players in there in certain areas. I think we all would have just thought, okay, well, we're going to try and get back into the top 4. That is our aim. That is the minimum. But as we've played and as we've got more attached to the players that we've seen who are new, we've realised that maybe the benchmark and our goal also increases. And we've done well so far to the start of the season. And I don't think we're going to win a title. I think Manchester City is just far too good. I think they're a level above us, sadly. But in my heart, I will continue to hope. And we've still, even with a draw to Luton, we are still in and around the area. We play Manchester City and we're 3 points off them. That game's in 2 games' time. Take 3 points off them. I know it's not going to be as easy as saying that, but there's a chance there. So yeah, I agreed with them a bit more than you, because I don't think Liverpool, I just think Manchester City are an entirely different beast, and I think maybe we are missing a player here and there. However, a title is still on at this moment in time, and you cannot breed. I have my own thoughts. Jurgen Klopp cannot be breeding into this team. Yeah, lads, we're just going for top 4, so don't worry. Points dropped it. That's not. You want elite mentality, and the elite mentality, which Szoboszlai's already shown in interviews, is we can win everything. We're going to try and win everything, and if we fail, let's see how far we fall.
I'm of the sense, Chris. Like, I've just thought, yeah, it is a title race. Because I'll be honest, I do think City are the favourites. Of course they are. They'll be the favourites until they're mathematically out of it because they are so good. But like, I've had the sense the opposite from Jurgen. Like, I've actually thought more of like, he thinks he's in a title race. Some of the reactions he's had to wins and stuff, where it's been really big moments. Some of the decisions he's made, some of the things, it has made me think Liverpool think they're in a title race. What do you think Jurgen's mindset is?
I think Jurgen's mindset is you go out there and you try and win absolutely everything, which is what Chloe's saying. I think what Dan said in part 1 is probably true as well, which is you're in a title race until you're not in a title race, you know. And I don't think Jurgen is going in there preaching like Chloe said. Then we're going for top 4. We're going to win absolutely everything that we can get our hands on. You know, I don't think we're the favourites for this either. I think that's Manchester City's to lose. But one Rodri injury and they lose a couple of games. You know, another Rodri injury, they could lose another couple of games. You know, you've got to be there to pick up the pieces. You know, Leicester were there a few years ago to pick up the pieces when everyone else dropped off. You've just got to be in and around it. And when you are trying to build a side, you've got to build that, again, Chloe said it, that elite mentality and stuff like that. So you can only get that by winning games. You can only get that by continuing to try to win games and see where you get. And, you know, winning a trophy here and a trophy there, great. But you'll only find out about these players when they are in a title race. You know, if you get top 4, what are you doing? Are you throwing the baby out with the bathwater because you don't think they're good enough? Or do you want to see how far you can push these lads? And I think Jurgen will be pushing them as far as he can. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think it's just one of those things where when Jamie's on live TV, he said it wrong. And that's honestly what I think it is. When you ask him, if you were to straight up ask him, does Jurgen think he can win the league? I think he probably hopes that he can win the league, and he's a realist and probably thinks Man City are the favourites, which is exactly what probably all of us have just said there. But he's in a live TV environment, and you know what it's like. Everyone hangs on every single word that you've said. He's probably just misspoke.
I suppose as well, Dan, the part where he says, you know, Liverpool can't win the title without a defensive midfield. Then it goes on to...
But that can be rectified this season.
Yeah,
so he's always counted his own.
Well, we're going to speak about that in a moment, but it brings it back.
I also agree with that. If we didn't sign a defensive midfielder, I don't think we could win the league.
It brings it back to what Joseph said before with the Super Chat in part 1. I was like, maybe it has to be endo time now, because at least until January. We'll speak about Andre in a moment, but like, we are at a point now with Alexis where he's not in good form anyway. He clearly struggles to, like you mentioned, sniff that danger out in times like that. I said on the final word, I hate repeating myself too much on shows, but like, do you remember when we had no centre-backs and we started playing midfielders as centre-back? And then we decided we'd be better off just playing lads who are centre-backs there, even if they're not as good at footy. And it kind of worked. Like, Nat Phillips and Reece Williams are not as good at footy as Jordan Henderson and Fabinho. But they were centre-backs. That's kind of where I'm at with Endo now. And obviously, we'll see against Brentford and because McAllister can't play. But it does feel like the decision, by choosing to go for Endo, obviously after having lost out on Caicedo and Lavia, it feels like it might be the time to put him in, because Liverpool aren't really doing themselves no favours. They're not really doing Alexis any favours either.
That last point is one of the more poignant ones to me. The fact that McAllister just looks completely devoid of any confidence. Even the stuff that isn't necessarily sort of second nature to a defensive midfielder, because Chris is right on the point. He doesn't have those defensive instincts because that's not what he is as a footballer. He likes to be further advanced. He likes to be making things happen in the final third. But even the simple stuff now, all of a sudden, that he can do it like that. Simple passes, 20-yard balls, whatever it may be. He's not even getting them right now. And that's just for me because, like I say, he's going through a rough time of it, and his Liverpool career hasn't started the way he would have liked. He's seen Szoboszlai, he's seen Gravenberch come in and hit the ground running. He's probably looking at them going, I wish that was me a little bit. He's probably a little bit jealous the fact that they're playing in the positions and the roles they want to be, and he's not. He's done an okay job for the most part in that position. I don't think he's been sort of horrendous by any stretch. I think we went from probably his best performance last weekend to one of his worst yesterday. I think that's probably fair to say. But the point you make about defenders and that season is one I made 2 or 3 weeks ago on this show. And I think at some point... No, I know, I'm just saying. At some point you do, because Paul.
Maybe we should have put Dan Sensor on that promo.
No, but Paul kind of shut it down. Paul shut it down at the time. It was like it wasn't a thing. But at some point you need to put specialists in the specialist roles, and I think we might be there. Obviously, as you say,
yeah, I remember you saying that. Actually,
we're gonna see it.
Part.
We're gonna see it with Endo next weekend. So let's see how that looks. But I think I'm there as well, because I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to get the best out of McAllister at any point in that 6 role. It's just never going to happen. So we need to get his confidence back up a little bit and give him some games in the 8 when he's back available, of course. And maybe it is just Endo until January. But of course, when you look at the fixtures, you look at United, you got Arsenal, you got Man City, you got Newcastle in there. That's before we can do anything about it in terms of rectifying it with an Andre signing potentially. So if you are going to throw Endo in, it's a baptism of fire. Like, he's had a little game here and there in the cup, and a little run out in the Premier League for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then he's suddenly going to go, "They are, mate. There's your start. Go and enjoy that run." That's really difficult. So I'm not sure he'll do it, but I probably would by now.
I suppose as well, Chloe. We're going to touch upon the Andre stuff in a moment. I think a lot of people were watching the Copa Libertadores final the other day just to keep an eye on how he got on, and he had a good game by all accounts, but it's a long way away. Like, December is miles away. I know it's only a couple of months away till the window opens, but like, Liverpool have got so many games between now and the New Year's that, yeah, it might just be sticking with McAllister. That might be the option. Hope he just gets better at it, and hope he does. But I haven't seen too many signs that, I think on the ball he'll be absolutely fine. He had a bad game. He gave it away too much the other day, but them's the breaks. It's that Liverpool are too easy to counter-attack even still. And it is because there's no one really in that midfield they'll all run back and they'll all try the nuts off to get back into shape, but there's no one who's like cutting it off at source, which is what Fabinho was so good at for so long. And you do wonder. I actually saw a little bit of Endo doing this in certain when he has been on the pitch for us. Maybe it is time.
It's
big and take a
hard,
breath.
isn't it?
Why is it? But why? I don't know why. Why is it? Sorry, Chloe. But why do you think? Is it just because you don't think Endo's that good?
It's because I'm not too sure what Endo is still. I've seen glimpses of him playing all right, but I've also seen him thrown in the deep end against Newcastle away, and he looked like a fish out of water. He looked like he didn't have a clue. He played against Lask, and I thought to myself, I've got no idea what he's doing. Like, I don't know what he is, and that is the thing is, I'm fine. I think he's gotten better. I think he's gotten more confident as well, but he isn't as good of a footballer as McAllister is in my mind. And if he's not going to play good enough or as good as McAllister is, then you've got a tough decision to make. I don't want to throw him in and him be absolutely crap and us all annihilate him and us go back to McAllister and then be scared every time we rotate Endo in. That's not what I want. I feel like he needs to gain more confidence. I mean, he got a header, which was an unbelievable header, had a goal for us against Forest. Hopefully that gives him confidence. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'd like to see it against an easier opponent than throwing him in at the deep end, because when he played against Newcastle I was seriously concerned for the lad. But it's hard. What Liverpool need to make sure they do, the only options are those two players. They're going to have to rotate them up until January comes, and you've got to hope that Liverpool are still somehow in a title race by that time. And once if you've somehow still got you're 2-3 points behind Manchester City at that point, you've done absolutely incredible. Why can't you go and win a title with an actual DM there? Because you've done it with two lads who, one is not at the peak of his powers and has been brought in for a stopgap, and the other is just playing right out of position and can't win a ball because his tackling percentages are absolutely horrific. Sorry, McAllister, but they are.
I don't know. I'm sort of similar to you, Chloe. I think, for me, I'm a little bit afraid of why Jürgen hasn't done it so far, which that's not. But when I've watched him, I'll tell you about what I think of Endo is, I think he's really good with the ball at his feet. I think his passing's really good. It's his position I'm a bit scared of. And his pace. I think his position's not very good. And yeah, obviously they're the obvious things, but like him just not being in the right place. Like, you can talk about tackling percentage from McAllister all you want, but he's in the right place to try and make those tackles. From what I've seen and again, I've been in Auto Cup on the halfway line in the upper Kenny. It's as good a view as you're going to get of a midfielder in their positioning anywhere in the ground. and it just doesn't look that good to me, and that's a concern. Now, that's something that you can improve with understanding of the system and everything else, so you can coach that, you can teach him to be in the right position. Maybe that's what Jurgen's doing. We did see for a long time Fabinho not go in as the 6.
It was around...
As well, while he learned the role and how Liverpool want. So maybe that's what Jurgen's doing, and he's just seeing it and thinking, well, you know what? McAllister is only a stopgap solution, but he's a good stopgap while Endo learns the rope. So I don't know one way or the other what Jurgen should do, because I don't know enough about Endo. But all I can see week in, week out is he's picking McAllister. And for me, there's a reason, and I don't know what that reason is yet.
I suppose, Chris, going back to what Chloe said there, like, he hasn't got a choice next game. Well, he has. He could play Jones or Gravenberch there, I suppose, and do something mad, but McAllister got himself suspended.
It's an opportunity for Endo, though.
That's what I'm saying. I was about to say, Gravenberch wasn't in the team. Curtis Jones was rightly in the team, and I think Liverpool probably missed him a little bit against Luton, actually. But then Gravenberch got in and stayed in. This is an opportunity now for Endo. McAllister's got himself suspended, 5 bookings. If Endo plays well against Bournemouth...
Probably not a bad shout, by the way, getting a suspension for Brentford rather than get one in the next game.
For City, I wonder, maybe. But if Endo plays well against Brentford, then you probably do want a DM. Ideally, you would want a DM against Manchester City of all teams. So if the opportunity's there for him, it's I know it's only one game and there's a bit of a one-game audition. Might be a bit harsh on him, but there is scope there for him to get himself in the team and stay in the team, because that's exactly what Gravenberch did.
And there's always been a meritocracy going back to Rodgers at Liverpool, hasn't there? If you play well in the shirt's yours. We've seen it earlier on in the season with Matip being the centre half alongside Virgil van Dijk, but Konaté's put some good performances in. It's now it looks like it's Konaté's shirt to lose, and I'm sure we'll see it again at times, whether it be Timikas or Gomez, who might be in one of those little meritocracies at the moment. I don't know, but this is a massive opportunity for Endo, and he's got to put down a marker to say I'll be in this side, and it's up for McAllister for when he gets his opportunities to play better and get in. But the other thing about the Luton game is there was 10 or 11 crap players against Luton. It wasn't just McAllister, was it?
Absolutely.
It wasn't just it wasn't the main point, it was just at one of the points. TJ, Andre will solve the problem. Let's move on to Andre then, because Fluminense, I always really
struggle with that one. Yeah.
Tell me, say again for me.
Fluminense.
There you go. Won the Copa Libertadores. Of course, he did play a vital role in the game. He was actually, I did actually watch part of it. Keep an eye on it before I had otherwise engaged. But I know you watched it and you were on the socials. It's since come out according to, is it G Globo or GE Globo? Either way, Brazilian outlet. Mario Bittencourt, the president of Fluminense, has an agreement with Andre and Nino for them both to leave to a European team at the end of the year. Now, Nino's going to Nottingham Forest. That's pretty much all signed and sealed, delivered. Andre, it looks like the general mood moves. Everyone seems to think it's the world's worst kept secret. And that he's joining Liverpool. He has to wait till January, of course, when the window opens. And also, Fluminense now get to play in the Club World Cup. I think I'm right in saying, so that's worth mentioning. But, I mean, if we're expecting this lad to come in, having played almost a full season of brilliant footy, and just be the answer to Liverpool's problems within a couple of weeks of January, in a new country, in a new league, like, I hope he's brilliant, and by all accounts he looks really good, but like, my goodness, it feels like we're putting a lot of pressure on this kid, if that is the case.
Yeah, I think he's really special, and I really hope we sign him. There is a little Arsenal and Fulham sniffing around as well, by all accounts, but I do think Liverpool remain the front runners for that signature. We've done a lot of groundwork on this. The conversations have already been spoken about that were had in the summer. Their president came out and spoke about them recently. Even in the commentary in the game on Saturday, it was spoken about Liverpool's interest in Andre, which is fascinating. You don't hear that very often. I think the commentator said if Liverpool fans are watching, there's probably a good reason as to why. Tim Vickery obviously knows his stuff down there as well, has mentioned Liverpool's interest quite a lot in recent weeks. So I do think we are very much the favourites to get him. But you're right. Nobody can expect him to come in and sort of fix all our ailments in one sort of week, because it's going to take some adaptation. They play a completely different system there. I know Chris has been sort of looking into it. It's different from anything football's really seen, I think, for a long time. It's anti-Guardiola, it's been described to me as. It's like the opposite of what he likes. As nobody really has a set position. They all kind of float around, just follow wherever the ball is, a little bit all over the place. At one point in the weekend, then number 10, that Ganso, was playing centre-half for like 15 minutes because he just found himself there. It was weird. But yeah, Andre looks a real deal. There's a moment in the game on Saturday where he gets the ball, wins the ball back and goes on a mad run, and while he does so, there's people are just scrapping by one side.
It was a mad game.
South American footy for you. Somebody got headbutted in the first half and didn't get sent off. Like, what's going on?
And then the lad got slapped in the face and
then did go, it was mental. But yeah, Andre, I've watched him a little bit now. I've seen 3 or 4 games of his. I've done a little bit of research on him, and I think he's brilliant. And I said to somebody this morning, I can't remember who it was now, I might have been you last night, he's more than just a DM. He's not just a destroyer. He controls football matches, and I think that's where we're kind of moving to. The fact we've seen McAllister. I've said it before. That looks like a little bit of a precursor to the type of DM that we want. We don't just want a Makelele, Fabinho type. Fabinho was good technically, as was Makelele, but you don't just want someone who's going to win the ball back and give it to the next guy. You want somebody who's got a little bit more than that, and Andre feels very much like that to me.
I suppose as well, Chloe, like you say, we got a comment. Barmalam, nice name. Andre will take some time to get up to speed. I wouldn't expect to see much of him until next year. And that's the thing, he will have played the full season.
We can't sign him until next year.
Yeah, no.
I'm guessing he makes next season.
Nice.
Paraphrasing, but you are
really
right.
good.
But again, I hope he's brilliant, and I hope he is, and I hope Liverpool sign him. By all accounts, he's really good. But pinning all your hopes of a second half of a season revival or whatever it is, or let's just get to January and we'll buy Andre and then it'll all be solved. If you buy Andre, you're not buying him for the next 4 months, you're buying him for 5 years. It does feel like you've got to be really careful. This lad, we did this a little bit with Naby Keita, where he got hyped to the hills, and then he just... injuries, of course, happen, but like he never quite lived up to what we'd all built him up to be. This Andre thing might also be similar. He's been knocking around. His name's been muted for quite a while. We're all watching Copa Libertadores finals to watch him like we were all watching RB Leipzig back in the day. I just feel like I hope that if this is the case and Liverpool do sign him, like got to take it easy on him. Like it feels like a very pressurised situation otherwise.
Yeah, but it also takes pressure off both Endo and McAllister, who also might thrive from that. You know, you might actually see McAllister play his actual position that we bought him for. And
he'd do well to get a game, to be honest.
Yeah, he would at the moment. But it helps us out in terms of bodies. It helps us out in terms of, you know, taking the pressure off each other. And he looks like a really good footballer. I can't say much because I am in the... I think he's boss, but I am a little bit scared to fully, you know, turn around and say he's unbelievable, because he's playing in a league in which, you know, it's not...
There's lads fighting on the floor.
Exactly, that's what's going on. He's not playing in a major league, in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe or anything. So... that it is going to take quite an adaptation for him, but I'm hoping that with how much we can rotate that, and depending on the opponents, because McAllister worked brilliantly against the likes of Villa. Like he was so good in that game. It was one of his better games, and it just helped us out having a ball playing midfielder there. But in other games, you do need that player who smells danger and wins the ball back for you before they've even started to counter. So yeah, it's one of them where I don't want to hype him up too much. I really hope we get him, because not just is it a case of, you know, we don't fully know how good he is. Who else is available? I don't know who else is available.
Calvin Phillips?
No.
Right.
I'd very much rather Andre at any level, to be perfectly honest.
I'd rather Peter Andre.
Andre
3000, get him
the
in
Giant.
The Giants, he's there for 20 years, get him playing DM as well. It's interesting because, like, Liverpool have got one non-homegrown spot left in the squad already, so they can bring someone in, and it feels like it could be him. But if you were looking at doing business in January, which I think Liverpool probably will have to do, is that the spot you're looking at for if you're going to
100%.
sign?
Everyone knows it. That's it. Everyone knows Andre's who we want. We're going to go out there. We're going to sign Andre. He's going to come in. Hopefully, he does something a little bit like Luis Diaz did, where you can drive the team on a little bit and stuff like that. But if not, you know, you're absolutely spot on, Steve. We're buying him for the next 5-6 years. That's the point of it. It's to improve year upon year, and you know, we'd have a young midfield with, you know, a 22-year-old Andre, a 23-year-old Szoboszlai, Kurt Jones, Elliott, Gravenberch. You know, all these players are unbelievable, and they grow up together, and you know that solves your problems, and then you look to challenge and stuff. So yeah, we might not be there for a title challenge this season, but you get the pieces and the foundations in place. You don't know what's going to happen in the back end of this season yet. As I say, something could happen. City could have a mad drop off, whatever. But then ultimately it's about the future, and then the next part of that is, well, we've sorted our attackers out. You've got a Salah question. We're still not got an answer on that yet. You've sorted your midfield out. You might need a couple of defenders, but it looks like we've got a spine of a side who can challenge on multiple fronts for multiple years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see how it all pans out. But yeah, it does. I suppose that all the mood music is like this one's going. It feels like the world's worst kept secret for everybody involved. It feels like it's when, not if now, doesn't it? It feels like we're always waiting for, and maybe this fact that they won that, and then they've got this other competition, the Club World Cup, that maybe, because I think he's been quite respectful to his team, which is fair play to him. Like he could have left, he could have kicked off by when the interest was made. It feels like he's been very respectful.
I think honestly, that's hardened our resolve. Because Jürgen
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
players who are committed to the football club and who are good people, and he's clearly committed to his football club and is a good person.
Yeah, we spoke about it last week, the no dickhead policy. He seems to have passed that already by committing the fact that he wants to stick around, and that was their first ever Copa Libertadores, which meant the absolute world to them, as you could probably tell by the celebrations. And yeah, I think Chris is right. I think the fact he was willing to do that, and this move, if it does happen, would be like a childhood dream for him, you would imagine. Like, how many players have we seen come from South America who just dream of playing in one of your elite football clubs? And the fact he was willing to put it on hold and stick around and play for his boyhood club and oversee what they've done, it says a lot about him as a character, as a person. But I think you're right. I think if the can has to be kicked down the road because of the Copa Libertadores, I do wonder now whether the can will be kicked down the road a little bit further because of the Club World Cup, and their domestic season's still going on. I think that finishes the 3rd of December, I think I might say.
Usually the Club World Cup's Christmas time, innit?
Yeah, well, I think they have the domestic, the Serie A will finish like it's like early December, and the Club World Cup will follow. They could end up playing Manchester City in that, actually, but they're not going to win the league. They're like 8th or something like that. They're not really fighting for that. But yeah, I do wonder whether the conversations may start going on now. Who knows? They've already been had in the summer once over, so perhaps they revisit that now. But I do wonder whether any sort of official announcement, which is possible, by the way, you know, he can't play till January, of course, but you could say we've agreed the transfer of XYZ.
Do it with Van Dijk, it got announced,
exactly.
didn't it, before the January.
You can do it. I think Nottingham Forest are going to do it with the centre half, to be honest with you. That looks very imminent. So I think Liverpool might hold off out of respect, potentially, and I think Andre will very much be on board with that as well. So yeah, I think in terms of official signings, we might have to wait a little bit longer. But I think my sort of senses are that Liverpool will sign him. I've spoken to quite a few people around it as well in the past, including somebody who messaged me the other day saying look forward to Monday. He clearly felt it was going to happen this week. But yeah, I think Liverpool will get this signing done, to be honest.
Absolutely. Speaking of things we've all been doing this week, then we're going to come to that in a moment. There's what everyone's been up to and what everyone's got coming on Redmen this week. We have got a biased football podcast straight after this show. I'll be leaving because I've got to go and get... We've been nominated for an award. I'm going to an award show. I've been selected to go to that one. Probably because Paul's in Belgium, so and Chris didn't want to go, but maybe. But I hope we go and win that. But Chris will be hosting the Bias Football podcast shortly after. You've got Mikel Arteta's VAR outrage, a little bit about Man United and more officiating, of course. That'll be coming up later on. By the way, if you want to check that out over on Redmen Plus, if you sign up as a monthly captain, use the code BIASED, BIASED as the promo code. You'll get 2 months for half price while you check it all out. There you go. Use the code BIASED, 50% off a monthly captain subscription for your first 2 months. Have you got anything else going on, guys, this week? Dan, you've been speaking to a lot of different people, haven't you, about this Andre stuff again? Yeah,
there will be a conversation with a Brazilian fella going out at some point this week. Yeah, Brazilian journalist. I've got some Joel Quanta stuff coming out next week as well. And Chris Kirkland messaged me about an hour ago. He wants to do something too, so probably that as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely plentiful, keeping everyone on the toes. Chloe, no game this week for you to get on a bus to. Are you quite happy, you're relieved about that one, or would you like to be going somewhere?
You know,
I love away days, to be honest. Bournemouth in the piss and down rain, I didn't enjoy as much, believe it or not.
You would have liked South of France. Is Toulouse South of France?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
I mean, but Paul's bagged you that one as well.
Wonder why fancy that. It's weird, isn't it?
So you guys will be on the watch along for that one together again.
On the watch along.
It didn't go so well. I'm hoping Liverpool can redeem themselves when you two are on. Yeah. No pressure, but they never lose when me and Errol do the watch alongs.
They always lose when I'm on them.
Oh, good. Okay, we might have to make a late change.
That might be me and Dan then.
Yeah.
We might make a late change there. And Chris,
I've got deep dive tomorrow. Not sure what I'm doing on that one yet. Obviously with watch-alongs and stuff like that. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Keep an eye out as well. We announced it on the socials a while ago now. We're Finding Istanbul, our latest YouTube series, will be out during the next international break. I've been set what is a ridiculous challenge by Paul and Chris. So yeah, keep an eye on the socials.
Did you use Google Maps?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah.
It's quite easy to find.
Istanbul, it's just... But no, I think fine.
It's in Turkey.
Did you? I could have got my head on that.
Have you made a video series out of that?
Yeah.
Well,
fucking hell, like, you know what I mean? What are you doing?
That would be the worst YouTube video of all time, just me pointing at a map.
Well, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Done. Until next time.
Found Istanbul.
Coming next, Finding America on the Redmen TV.
Finding Tokyo. Yeah, done it as well. But yeah, so keep an eye out on that. That'll be coming out during the next international break. We're looking forward to sharing.
Sounds great, it really does.
It's absolutely brilliant because you've dramatically undersold the concept of it. But fair enough, absolutely fantastic. Anyway, like I said before, do check out the tickets for the live shows if you're over in Ireland, Northern Ireland, cities and towns around Dublin, Belfast, come and see us. Like I say, tickets will be out on Friday. And once again, to end the show, do go and check out the offer from HelloFresh. Get yourselves involved with that code Redmen6025. Save yourself some money off your first box, and then even more money off your next 8 boxes as well. Thanks to Dan, thanks to Chloe, and thanks to Chris for joining us. Thanks for you guys for listening or watching this episode of the Redmen Originals podcast. Stay tuned for the biased over on Redmen Plus in a bit. See you later.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.